Hey folks, how's it going? Plastic Guy here, coming back with another figure review, and today we're taking a look at this Mess Toys Symbiote Spider-Man action figure. Similar to CT Toys, Mess Toys have taken an existing sculpt, this being the version 2 Amazing Yamaguchi Spider-Man body mold, and they've given us a unique repaint with this Symbiote Spidey design. I do find it interesting that we've not gotten a legitimate Symbiote Spidey from Revoltech, having gotten two different versions from them that collectors love overall. I do hope it's something we see in the future, but Mess Toys have beaten them to the punch here. I guess if you're not fast, you're last, but the question is this Mess Toys figure any good? Let's check it out. So let's start off by taking a closer look at the packaging here. I do like the overall design. It is very reminiscent of Mezco. It might be a straight rip-off, I'm not 100%, but I do think for an AliExpress bootleg it does give a quite premium aesthetic. I like the logo on the front here, your classic Symbiote Spidey comic logo, and that just flows all the way around the packaging. There's not really much more to it than that. Mess Toys up at the top, black suit and neighbour on the top, black suit and neighbour on the bottom. I really hope it's Spider-Man inside and not just my neighbour Keith in a black suit. We've got Mess Toys again in the bottom right, nothing really on the sides. It does say 112 action figure, which again, very reminiscent of Mezco, if not just a straight rip-off. We get this warning at the bottom, so if you do want to read that, hit the pause button now. But let's check out what is inside. So first up we get a flight stand, and that's always appreciated with any sort of characters that swing through the air, fly through the air, but this looks really nice. We get this embossed white logo on the bottom here, all black in colour to match the figure. We get this part here which I presume is going to screw on the bottom, and this part to hold the figure. This bit feels a bit cheap, the plastic does feel cheap, but let's assemble it and see how well it's going to work. Okay, this is quite interesting. I've not had a flight stand like this in the past, but it seems to be all in working order. This middle bit is really bendy. Again, this plastic doesn't feel as good as the base or the bendy wire in the middle here, but let's see if it will hold a figure at the very least. Okay, for the time being, I'm pretty happy with the stand. I think it's pretty good quality, again for an AliExpress bootleg. This is of course the Symbiote Marvel Legends Spider-Man on the retro carded body mold, and it's holding a Marvel Legends fairly well, so we'll see how it stands the test of time, because of course these things loosen as time goes by, but for now, cannot fault it. It looks good and it's practical. We get one pair of web wings. These are sculpted quite nicely. It is just one shade of white. They are both the exact same. And to bring in the legitimate Amazing Yamaguchi web wings, we can see that they are pretty much the exact same sculpt. It looks like they are one for one, the same size. I'm more impressed with the paint on the original Amazing Yamaguchi. That translucent clear plastic with the green through it looks really nice. The one shade of white definitely not up to the same standard, but it looks good. I think it will work well with the black suited Spider-Man. That contrast will look cool. We can check that out later in the video, but yeah, just one set of these. On the Amazing Yamaguchi we did get two different sets of web wings. In fact, these weren't even web wings, were they? These were for the whipping hands. So I don't know, does this have... We'll see if the figure has the port for it to work as a web wing. It might just be a whipping effect, and I'm still holding the real version. That's the one I should be talking about. And while we're talking about web effects, we get these two web lines here. Again, same exact sculpt as the legitimate Revoltech Amazing Yamaguchi version 2 Spider-Man. One tone of white on this one as well, but they have captured the sculpt pretty good, I would say. It is a wee bit rough here and there. You can see there's a wee bit of excess just sticking out, and it is the same on this one. Not as bad though. Yeah, these are totally fine. I think they've done a decent job again for that cheaper AliExpress bootleg type figure. Very sprawled open hands, wall crawling hands. other wall crawling type hands, loose relaxed hands. And I guess we get these in place of whipping hands. These are clobbering time fisted hands, but they do have the port on the back for the web accessories. I know that in Spider-Man media, when he's got the black suit on, he isn't always giving it the classic thwip hand, but I would have liked to have seen black suited thwipping hands included in this figure. I do think it's a bit of a miss that they aren't included, and we just need to use these fisted hands here, but let's see how well they work with those web accessories. Looks pretty good with the web line coming out of the top of the hand there. I am disappointed that we don't get a set of hands that can hold this web line for web swinging. I would have thought with this hand and the back port, there would have been a port at the top for him to hold the line like so, have him swinging through the streets, but that isn't an option on any of these alternative hands. So yeah, I think it would be a bit weird having him web swinging with just the web line coming out of the top of the hand like that. But let's see how he looks with the other web accessories. Yeah, looks good with the open web accessory like that as well. And of course, you could use the original Amazing Yamaguchi web accessories if you wanted. We get this alternative head sculpt with these different set of eyes to compare it with the head sculpt on the figure at the moment. You can see it's got a very different expression, and I think it looks great. I love the matte black paint on this. The eyes painted perfectly, you know, nothing bleeding over onto the rest of the mask there. I like the expression, I like how it differs from the head sculpt that's on the figure at the moment, and so yeah, chuffed with this different sort of design. And then we have the figure itself, and straight out of the box, I'm pretty impressed. The feel of this thing, the quality of plastic, is really good. I don't know if I was just trying to lower my expectations. Something about the overall look to this thing, I thought it was maybe too good to be true. I thought the plastic would be gummy or just quite brittle, but honestly, this feels really nice. I think it feels pretty great. It looks the part, it feels really good. The joints are all movable. At first, the upper bicep swivel here was very tight, but that has loosened a wee bit here. You could use hot water or a hairdryer or something like that to probably help on something like that, but personally I just sort of move it around quite slowly until it loosens, and most of the time it does. So that has been alright at the moment. Everything in the legs seems to be moving quite nicely. And yeah, it looks the part. I think the thing with these bootlegs, with the CT bootlegs, adjacent bootleg companies, of course this is coming from Mess Toys, they're starting to master the look. You know, this looks fantastic, but it's the practicality of the figures that can let them down sometimes. I've definitely been caught out a couple times in the past with figures where everything looks nice, but then when you go to swap hands around, swap heads around, use the alternative interchangeable parts, that's when the gaps start to show. And so I definitely will pose this thing around and make use of the alternative parts to make sure that this is kind of holding up for the moment. I do expect things to worsen over time, but with most of the CT bootlegs that I have, they are still posing really nicely and everything is in good condition. So I'm hoping it will be the same from Mess Toys. This is the first Mess Toys bootleg that I have. The reason I'm doing that is because, again, we haven't gotten a legitimate Symbiote Spidey from Revoltech Amazing Yamaguchi, but they are using the body mold here. And they're doing it really well so far. This is honestly terrific. That head sculpt just looks classic Symbiote Spidey. Really don't have any problems with any part of this figure, with it being a knockoff third-party AliExpress Spidey. I was expecting at least something to kind of show itself straight out of the packaging, but the logo is painted immaculately. The white paint is spot on. I have moved these butterfly joints around a lot to see if there would be any paint rub initially, but it is held up really well at the moment. Of course, we can see how that stands the test of time. If there are any sort of flaws that pop up in the next while when I'm posing this, I'll make sure to update over on Instagram like I have done in the past, and I'll leave my Instagram in the description below. But for the time being, I'm really impressed. I think this looks really good. The logos are really sleek, head sculpts are really sleek. Of course, when it comes to the paint on the rest of the figure, it is all just one matte black. And so I think it's time to put this in some poses and make sure that this is all going to stick together. Okay, so making use of the stand that was included, swapping a couple of the hands over here. Really happy with this so far. I did have the torso pop off on me, but I think it's clear that there is just a sort of line that you don't want to cross for that to happen. The exact same as the legitimate Revoltech Amazing Yamaguchi figure, so I don't think it's a fault of the Mess Toys. Same with the CT Toys bootleg, and again the original, if you are manoeuvring the legs around and trying to get that ab crunch, the torso can pop off sometimes. So yeah, that happened, but again, I don't think it's really any fault of this bootleg specifically. I do think it is a missed opportunity, again, not having a port to hold the web line as if he's swinging through the buildings, but not really had any issues getting it into this pose. Let's try another. Still making use of the stand. I wanted to swap around a couple of the hands and really just move the legs around here, because with the Amazing Yamaguchi Revoltech figures that I have, it's the legs that are always causing me bother. If it's not popping off at the knee through QC error, it's popping off at the top of the thigh where the torso meets the leg due to the joint there. And thankfully, touch wood, nothing has popped off yet. I've really moved these legs around and they have held up at the moment, and so I'm really chuffed with this at this point. Let's put it in one more pose. Oh man, this looks so good at this point. I've swapped the head around, really tried to maneuver those legs and arms, and everything is really holding up. I do want to say maybe the knees are worrying me a wee bit, like they are not as tense as some of the other joints, but I have also had the leg pop off at the knee on my legitimate Amazing Yamaguchi Revoltech version 2 Spider-Man figure, so I don't know if it's just in my head or I'm like overly cautious about that area of the figure. Again, we'll see how it holds up, but for now, if you are looking to get a Symbiote Spider-Man figure on that Amazing Yamaguchi body mold, for the price point on AliExpress, I think this is pretty great. Let's compare them to some other figures. And so here is our Mess Toys Symbiote Spider-Man action figure next to the OG Amazing Yamaguchi Revoltech Spider-Man version 2. Coming out of retirement once again for a figure comparison, because this figure is notorious for falling apart at this point, especially because it has been out for a few years now and the joints just don't really hold up after heavily posing this figure around. And so it feels really good to get a Revoltech Amazing Yamaguchi style figure. It's such a cheap cost from AliExpress that you are able to pose around, get it into those Revoltech styled poses without breaking the bank and without breaking the figure at the moment. And so yeah, I think this looks incredible. It poses really well and it is standing 1-to-1 next to the original Amazing Yamaguchi here. For the price point, what is not to love? And then here is our Mess Toys Symbiote Spider-Man action figure next to the CT Toys bootleg of the Amazing Yamaguchi Revoltech version 2 Spider-Man figure. This is a decent bootleg. Again, I have problems with it that I looked at in the videos that I did. I did one review where I just had a really bad copy of this figure and it all sort of fell apart on me in the leg area. And there was some other QC issues in that, and then I got this other version, did an updated review which was a lot better, but I still had problems such as the arm falling off. And so that is why I'm so dubious about this Mess Toys figure right here. It's all going so well for the time being, but I'm just waiting for it to fall apart, because that seems to be the pattern with these style of figures, whether it be the bootleg or the legitimate version of the figure. And so I'm quite surprised at how well the Mess Toys is holding up right now. Here he is standing next to the retro carded Symbiote Spider-Man Marvel Legends figure. We have gotten newer Symbiote Spidey figures from Marvel Legends, one being on the Amazing Fantasy body mold. I do have it, it's still mint in card at the moment though, and I do still rate this older Symbiote Spider-Man figure. It does the trick for a Symbiote Spidey out of the box for me. But I think it really is showing how fantastic the Mess Toys Symbiote Spidey just looks here. They are standing around the same height, but man, he looks really sleek, a lot better than I was imagining. I just didn't think he would quite hold up to the promo pics that were released, but he definitely has. Talking about the AF-15 Marvel Legends body mold, here's that original figure on the left, and we've got our Maximum Series Marvel Legends Spider-Man standing on the right, and I just love the completely different style of each of these Spider-Man figures. And so there we have it for our Mess Toys Symbiote Spider-Man bootleg action figure, ripping off the Amazing Yamaguchi version 2 Spider-Man body mold, and really delivering here. I was really dubious about this thing, having a lot of issues with previous Revoltech styled figures, and mostly having lots of problems with that CT Toys Amazing Yamaguchi bootleg. I really wanted to be thorough with this knockoff right here, test its joints, the alternative parts and whatnot, and it has really came through. I am surprised at how good this actually is. It feels great, it moves really well. Some cool interchangeable parts and accessories, really nice flight stand included. For the price point, you really can't knock this thing. And so I'm going to leave the link to this figure down in the description below. I get a lot of folk asking where you can buy this at, and so the link will be down in the description from Funly Toy Store, the only sort of legit the legit bootleg seller. So yeah, check it out down there. I'll leave the link to my Instagram down in the description below. Feel free to hop on over there and check that out. Love doing the Instagram stuff, so it always is cool to interact with you guys over on the Instagram page. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Check out the other videos on the channel page. We have been looking at all the CT Toys knockoffs. I'll continue to look at all the CT Toys knockoffs. I do have Gambit right here, so we'll take a closer look at him in a couple of days or so. Please hit that subscribe button, stay tuned for that. Hit that like button if you like that video. It's a bit of a mess this end, and I do not know what I've said because I am not feeling too great. I'm sure you've heard it in my voice, and so thank you so much for sticking with me through this video. And as always, I'll catch you on the flip-flop later. Cheers.